tonight we're going to go through and we're going to talk about some things ideas that hopefully you're going to come up with, not me, because you know your businesses and you know your local market, but ideas that you think you can implement to help generate that word-of-mouth business and to get customers to come back. What we're going to be talking about now is what do your customers see when they engage with your business? Do your customers come in and do they see that sort of mess? You know, the picture of the cat with stuff everywhere, and I was saying during the break we've got 2 new kittens at home and at times our house looks like that. Or do they see that? You know, do they see something that's cluttered, messy, untidy, lack of care, or do they see someone that actually cares? This is not just for people who has shops. Like, you know, it can be if you just have an online business, for example, you know, how your website looks, you know, visually, the sort of images you use on that website, how long it takes to load, the information you've got on there, whether you're talking all about me, or you're talking about what's important to the customer, all those sort of things are the same thing, you know. The way, you know, you answer the phone, whilst that's not a visual thing, it paints a picture in the mind of the client of what sort of business they're dealing with. Have you actually just taken the time to stand back and look at it through the customer's eyes? You know, stand across the road, have a look at it. You know, walk past it. Stand in the doorway. When you stand in the doorway, just look straight ahead. What do you see? What are you seeing when you look straight ahead? Look to that wall, what do you see? Look to that wall, what do you see? Okay, it's really simple, but it's really, really powerful. You know, what about your brochures and promotion material? Has it got information in there that's actually helpful to the customers, or is it just crammed full of information that the customer couldn't care less about? Staff uniforms, the way you present. You mightn't have a uniform, but the way you present, you know. Is it appropriate for your customers? And maybe some of the answers for that is about looking at other industries and saying, well, why can't I, it's not done in my industry, I could do that in my industry, I could do that here. People wouldn't expect it. Okay, what could you do that would surprise people? And if you're different, you know, that gives people a reason to talk about you and gives people a reason to come back. You know, so what can you do that's different? How are your customers treated? Okay, we'll just go through this quickly. This is the customer service cycle, and you've got it in the workbook there, but these are just things that, checkpoints for you to have a look at your product or service. Your product or service information, is it customer focused or is it all about you? Okay? Do you demonstrate that you understand the customer's problems, or are you just expecting that they're just going to magically buy from you? You know? Do you describe how you're going to improve their world and change their world and make their world better? You know? Or are you just saying these are our products, we're going to sell them? You know, do you tell them why they should do business with you and not someone else? What's different about your business? You know, do you tell them what is different about how you do business compared to the competition? Do you give the customer a reason to buy from you and not from someone else? Now, it might be exactly the same, but I can guarantee your competition are not telling them what they do. So what you want to do is just say, well, look, these are the processes I go through. Just to make sure that you get the right outcome, these are the things I always do. You know, when you're buying the meat, where you buy the meat from, how you check the meat's okay, what you do when you get it into the shop to make sure it's there so that the customer knows they're getting a quality product. Don't assume the customer understands that, because they're probably like me, Luddites who know nothing. And I need to be told that that's a good piece of meat for these reasons. You know, don't assume that your customers know. You know, so that's that bit there. Face to face, you know, we've talked a fair bit about that. You know, your body language, presentation, greetings. You know, not jumping into sales mode. You know, jumping in and asking questions, taking the customer's orders. When you take the customer order, one thing I really recommend you do, really strongly there, is confirm that that's what the customer wants, okay? Rather than just making that immediate assumption of jumping in and sort of coming up with the bullet solution. Because what we can tend to do is always want to please the customer and jump in quickly, whereas that doesn't work. You know, just confirm it. Follow-up documentation. For a lot of businesses, I talked about the guy who quoted to us for the house, nicely presented, but again, finance, real estate, all those sort of things, complex world, big agreements, all sorts of things people don't understand. Give them something as a summary that explains in human language what it all means. Sending invoices to people. What can you do when you send an invoice to someone to get paid? One of the women in business who's been in that program, she said, when we're talking about invoice, she said, I always get paid. We send a nice chocolate with a note. We know that getting an invoice can leave sometimes a sour taste in your mouth, but here's a little chocolate to make it easier. Human, puts a smile on the face. Visiting customers. Things like arriving on time. Things like sending an SMS to say that, hang on, I'll be there today, and if you're really sharp, I'll be there in 15 minutes or I'll be there in 20 minutes. Just those little things. SMSs are really important. They have something like a 50% higher action rate than emails. Talking about customer service, which we've covered off a fair bit now, I'd really ask you for most businesses to focus on is educating the customer how to get the most out of your product or service. You know, making sure the customer knows exactly how to get the most out of that product or service. Because if they do, they're going to be more confident with their purchase decision. They're not going to have that buyer remorse, that self-doubt, and they're going to become walking billboards. Really think about all that knowledge you've got up in your head and how can you or your staff educate your customers. That is an absolute gold payoff, and there's not a business in this room that couldn't really use that as a powerful way of marketing your business. You are on Broadway, okay? You're always on Broadway. And this is about identifying what works and then doing the same thing over and over again. And that, as the business owner, that's about you working it out and then training your staff to do it, documenting and say, this is the way we do business here, this is the way we handle clients, step 1, 2, 3, 4, and even role-playing it with them so that they get confident. There's this thing that I loved that I learned years ago. Practice leads to competence. Competence leads to confidence. And if I work with people that are not confident, what I focus on is, well, let's practice it, give you the tools, let's practice it and get it right. And then when you get it right, confidence comes with that. Promotions. So what can you do? How can you wow your customers and keep your customers coming back? What I'd encourage you to do, particularly if you're struggling a little bit with this, set yourself a challenge to say, what are 30 ways that I can wow the customers? Okay, what are 30 ways that I can wow the customers?
30.
Yep, 30. What are 30 ways? And if you've got staff, that's a really good thing to do. And you don't do it in one sitting. The good idea is to put it on, those post-it notes, put it on a wall where no one can see it, and then just build it over a couple of weeks. But you'll find you'll get a lot more than 30. Out of all this, what can you do to wow the customer? Because good service, quality product, that's not going to cut it. It's exceeding the expectations that'll do it for you.